The DLM Forum is one of the largest forum of archivists working in the field of electronic archiving, but its rule goes far beyond that. Not only does it bring together professionals, but it also works through various EU projects to harmonize archival processes, jointly develop regulations and recommendations, share knowledge effectively, and support the development of software tools useful to the community. So I would invite Janet to give an introductory presentation on what has been happening in the DLM Forum, with its participation in various projects that have already been pointing towards AI applications in the previous decade. A few words about Janet. I don't think that Janet needs to be introduced to this community. Basically, Janet is a real engine of the DLM Forum and E-ARK projects and the follow-up project, but a few words. So Janet is part of coordination team of the E-ARK consortium and project manager for the eArchiving initiative, founded by the European Commission. She is a director of library research and development based in Cork, in West Cork, Ireland. Her experience is in digital preservation and data warehousing. She has a bachelor in mathematics and master in electrical engineering, PhD in the history of mathematics, and a bachelor in French. Her academic career culminated in her being professor of digital humanities at University of Brighton.
First of all, a very warm welcome on behalf of the eArchiving initiative. It was a real pleasure and a privilege to be invited here by Zoltán Lux, and it's a case of really coming back to working particularly with Zoltán. As you'll see in a moment, I have a very short introduction. We worked together in the original E-ARK project, and I shall mention some of the work that we did there. So it's wonderful to be working together. Oh, why's that moved? Go back. So thank you, a very warm welcome, and thank you very much to the Historical Archives of the Hungarian State Security for hosting this meeting, and also to the DLM Forum for the joint organisation. I presume I can move it? Yes, I can. So, E-ARK started 10 years ago. There was an E-ARK project, then we were a Connecting Europe facility building block. Now we are a procurement called the eArchiving Initiative. We work directly and represent directly the European Commission. Now in our tender, for some reason or another, artificial intelligence was not mentioned. I think this was perhaps just an oversight. So we hadn't made any specific provision back in 2022 for artificial intelligence. So when the bubble burst a couple of years ago, we hadn't specifically catered for it. Now, we cannot ignore artificial intelligence these days. So like everybody else, we are addressing this issue, this very important issue. So we have a couple of webinars on AI and archives. First one on opportunities, the second one on hazards. Some of you may know Adam Farquhar. He used to be head of digital scholarship at the British Library, and he wrote Fido. If you use anything like Fido or Prolom, he wrote it in like 2 days. He is phenomenal. So we are very excited to have him working in this area in E-ARK, in our eArchiving initiative. So we're looking at artificial intelligence. Now we know that generative AI, they can get data and they can produce results, some of them hallucinations. My goodness, we learned about hallucinations a couple of days ago that it can just invent things that don't exist. How frightening is that? AI can use anything, unstructured, but what is really nice, what really facilitates artificial intelligence is if you've got nicely formatted, nicely organized data, nicely structured data. Now we have a great amount of expertise generally worldwide in this. Data mining has been around for a long time, data warehousing similarly, digital humanities, and archival. What we need is archival practices covering these topics. So this happens to be something that meshes very, very well with David and myself. David will not like me saying this, but David wrote one of the first books on AI back in 1986. We organised together a conference to commemorate Alan Turing in 2004. Nobody was interested in Alan Turing in 2004. We got together with a group of international scholars to produce a commemorative statue. We couldn't get any money from anywhere. You know, now everything is Alan Turing, but back then it wasn't. We had the wonderful Andrew Hodges, who's written the biography on Turing. So David and I, between us, our expertise, we are ancient. We have been in academia for a very long time. We cover history of computing, history and computing, data mining, databases, data warehousing, history of computing, logic, and also mathematics and ordinary computer science. So this is very much, this is in our sweet spot. Now, back in 2003, my PhD was in 1999. I was introduced, actually in 1997, I was introduced to data warehouses very, very early on. And this is, I worked with colleagues at King Alfred's College in Winchester, and this is a dimensional model, a non-numerical fact table dimensional model with dimensions around the outside of the Doomsday Book that we created. And this was one of the first of its kind. A, it's very early, and B, it was non-numerical, so it wasn't just like how many bottles of wine have I sold. This was looking at historical work, so very unusual. Now, back to E-ARK. So the original E-ARK started in 2014. I'm very pleased to say that, as we promised, the website is still going. So there it is, with still lots of information on it. Now, I'd like to draw your attention to the workflow that we had, and right at the end of the workflow, so when we started, there were no established practices or infrastructure. There was just the OAIS, not just the OAIS is a conceptual model. So how do you actually get together and use tools? What is your actual infrastructure? How do we actually implement this, put it into practice? So we developed all those things together with National Archives and others. And right at the end, we had down there a data mining interface and a data mining showcase. And we had a group of experts, one of whom was Zoltan. So here's our data mining showcase. It was developed by AIT. Some really good work there. Sven was part of that with his colleague Rainer Smith. That is still available, and there were 1,154 downloads. It's still downloadable. We did some excellent work in that. And we went back to it, did a paper, and this is a paper with myself, Richard Healy, a wonderful colleague at the University of Portsmouth, he's now retired, Zoltan Lux, and Sven, who will be speaking after me. We did some really, really interesting work there, looking not only at databases, but at data warehouses, data mart, online analytical processing, all those things. And here in the little abstract, it says we give a detailed use case of the steps needed to produce a dissemination information package, a DIP, for an OLAP, online analytical processing representation of a data warehouse. I guarantee that nobody will be able to understand or use that for years. It is so far in advance of anything anyone else was thinking about. But we did all this. So this is some work that we could pick up in the future. It's something that we're really interested in, and there's a lot of preparation that we already did in that original E-ARK. Now, when we went onto the building block, it wasn't an area that was picked up, but it is obviously highly relevant today. So let's pick up where we left off with this. We don't have Richard Healy with us, but we have everybody else. So this is a really good basis to work going forward. And we look forward to a really exciting day today, looking at various aspects of artificial intelligence and how they affect archives. So, thank you very much. Here's our contact details for eArchiving. There's our European Commission website. If you would like to work with us in any way, shape or form, if you would like to find out more, here's all the information that you need. So support at earkfoundation.eu, etc. LinkedIn group, so please get in contact. And that's me.